My name is Ann Moser, and I suffered a stroke at the age of 48. A few years ago, because of that, I became involved with the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association.
Okay, hi, my name is Marlene Etkowitz, and I'm a registered nurse, and I've been a You're the Cure advocate for 4 years now.
I'm a heart survivor. I've had 10 angioplasties, I've got 4 stents. I really believe that if not for the research that's been done through Heart Association, there's a good chance I wouldn't be alive today.
So I've been a cardiovascular researcher now for about 30 years, and I've obviously, although I'm fortunate enough not to have any great family history of cardiovascular disease, between working in a clinical environment for 25 years, I see many, many patients afflicted with these that are not just old people who have chronic problems, but this is a disease that hits all ages, all genders, and I think people don't quite realize how ubiquitous heart disease can be. The American Heart Association is incredibly important to all cardiovascular researchers. They serve multiple functions. In terms of grants, one of the most important issues is that they are the organization in our scientific arena that really focuses their grant efforts on young investigators, those that are at the pre-doctoral stage, the postdoctoral stage, and the early faculty stage. These are areas of funding that not many other agencies, federal or non-for-profit, can really help us, and it's a very critical stage for making people go to the next step. In terms of other broader areas, they also obviously help a lot because of their advocacy efforts in terms of NIH funding, which is clearly a feature that's under threat at the moment and is a major worry for all of us in cardiovascular research. And the AHA has a very coordinated advocacy effort that pushes at both the state and federal level to try and increase research dollars for us.
It actually all started back in the 1970s when I first got my first AHA grant. It started me on a way to a career somewhat in research and science, but it was part of my training. So when one of my mentors got me involved in American Heart Association activities back in 1991, particularly in council leadership activities, that ended the free time. And basically what's happened since then is I've been able to serve on a variety of committees, and now I'm fully embedded in the advocacy process, and I'm pleased to be here.
We've got to take research into practice. We've got to make things happen. If we're not the squeaky wheel, things aren't going to get fixed, and we need to get things fixed.
So I think it's very clear that that we, as a community, have to realize that cardiovascular disease is a very broad disease, and that I think the You're the Cure is very important for several aspects of this. One is that they support programs to make sure that the CDC does screening across different states to make sure people are really aware that they might be at risk, and that they are able to do some sometimes relatively simple aspects to really help themselves prevent that disease occurrence. Of course, the other aspect is that You're the Cure is the premier network for cardiovascular researchers to really make their voice heard at the federal level for funding. They have an incredibly easy website that's been set up where people can register. When votes of interest come up, they'll be sent an email that will be very easy to respond to, and will instantly send a message to all the representatives and senators that are involved in that particular legislation. So it is an incredibly important process to be involved in, I think, for anyone who's interested in cardiovascular health.
Advocacy allows us to speak with one voice, whereas individually we have a difficult time connecting. Advocacy allows us to speak with one united voice and get our message across to those who need to hear it, those who are in charge of funding, and those who are in charge, basically, of our legislative lives.
I think everyone really needs to be involved in You're the Cure if you're interested in any aspect of cardiovascular health or cardiovascular research. You're the Cure encompasses many aspects of legislation that's involved in cardiovascular health and research. So this includes aspects such as CDC funding to make sure people are aware of the real needs to look after the cardiovascular risk, be made aware of whether they're at risk and be able to do something about that to hopefully prevent the disease. Also, of course, as a researcher that's interested in cardiovascular research, most of our funding comes from federal sources, which are under considerable stress at this point, and clearly we need to have a concerted effort to ensure that our elected officials realize the importance that cardiovascular research has to our nation's health, and make sure that the funding is appropriated accordingly.
Heart disease and stroke, you're the cure.
Heart disease and stroke, you're the cure.
Heart disease and stroke, you're the cure.
Heart disease and stroke, you're the cure.